weaknesses. You know, if you're bad at math, they tell you to work on your math instead of telling you to focus on, you know, your English studies, which you have to be great at. And in business, especially today, it's about cooperative collaboration and focusing on what you're good at, and then joining a community or building a community or becoming part of a community where your strengths mirror someone else's weaknesses, your weaknesses mirror their strengths, and together you can collectively accomplish something that brings greater value to the world at large and then enables you to make more money, make a greater contribution, make the world a better place, and ultimately affect, you know, and I say I change the world. So that's kind of what the message that I've been asked to go out and deliver and talk about is, and that's why this first slide says building relationships. Most people tell you to go out and build a network, and building relationships and building a community is much more than a network, although it begins in a network. A network might be viewed as the people that you interact with and who know that you know. And a community would be typified by people that know you. And there's a significant difference between who you know and who knows you. And we'll talk about that a little more. But for now, I'm going to turn it back to Eileen and Rob and see where they sort of want to take this. Hello? Eileen, Rob? Guys?
We're here. I want to let Eileen, I've got a lot of thoughts, but Eileen, go ahead. You're the host, and I will stay here and I'll be available. But I'm definitely getting a lot of good value out of what I'm hearing.
Is she still on?
So yes, sorry, I had to cough drops. The how would you, in which kind of method do you think that is required to build a relationship? Because a lot of the times when you're thinking about building relationships, you're not necessarily building the correct ones that will last very long, and people do get put down by others when something that doesn't work out. So how do you approach and overcome, or do you have a solution, or do you have a direct method?
Well, first of all, when you say method, define what you mean by method.
So in terms of the way that I build my relationships nowadays, it's always within a community, and then I go to the community because it's kind of like a filter system where I already know the people who are there, they are looking for what I'm looking for. And that's how I would do that nowadays. But previously, it was just meet and greet and kind of networking, but not really building relationships. So I guess what I'm really asking for is,
yes,
do you use communications as an effective form of building relationships?
Well, first of all, the only way that you're ever going to build a relationship is through some form of communication. Now, how you communicate is irrelevant. You know, for some people, I'm a very auditory person, so I have little to no difficulty building relationships over the phone, over a mechanism like this, over a webinar, over a hangout, from the stage. I love to meet people face-to-face, but the majority of the people that I meet face-to-face, I feel as if I know them already, especially if we've had the opportunity to speak one-on-one. Certainly many of them feel as if they know me. I think that for me, I travel all over the world, and what I've found is that people are much more alike than they are different. Most people that you'll meet have the same desires. Most people really do want a better tomorrow than yesterday. They want to leave a better world for their children than the one they're living in. They want to provide better opportunities for their children. They want to have a better life for their family. They want to have more time with their family. They want more freedom of choice in the way that they spend their time. They want to provide better choices, better thoughts, better vision, better views of the world for those that they know, love, and care about than perhaps what they've been able to up until this particular point in their lives. So I speak with and meet everybody. I try never to prejudge, but I'm very selective with who I then spend my time with. And what I look for are people that are striving to break through mediocrity. Because I think what typifies a lot of people is because people are so afraid to try, especially here in North America. You know, once upon a time we were the cusp of innovation here in North America, but what has happened, and I don't think that day is over, but I think we're definitely at a point in time where we are looking behind us at a time when we led the world, because I've spent probably, I don't know, 50% of the last year, 80% of the last decade, although I did spend quite a bit of the last few years back here in the States, you know, in Asia. And there's such a different energy over there if they approach it from such a different place than we do, because people are so hungry and they're so much more long-term in their thinking. But I try to never prejudge, because anybody who wants more, who has a great vision, who has a long-term view of what is possible. So I'm always looking for people that are possibility thinkers. You know, one of the litmus tests is, if you know, you've all heard the parable about, is the glass half empty or half full, because both are accurate. If you look at a glass that the liquid is filled half full with liquid, it is both half empty and half full. So both speak the truth. The question one has to ask themselves is, which reality serves you better? A person who views the glass as half empty tends to be a scarcity thinker. They tend to live in fear, afraid of losing what they have, afraid of it going away and not being able to get more. A person who sees the glass as half full tends to live in a more abundance type of mentality, where they think the world is full of water and they can empty the glass because they'll just go fill it up again. I tend to hang or look for people that think abundantly, because it is in the abundance of thinking that possibility and solution lives. It is in scarcity thinking that being backed into a corner seems to thrive. And people that find themselves backed into a corner don't see options, and where you don't see options, there doesn't tend to be a lot of innovation and growth. And I'm always looking for innovation and growth. So yes, I think that you can look for groups of people that share traits that you are attracted to. I think that you can look for groups of people that have interests that match your own in terms of what you want to accomplish and what type of contribution you want to make. But for me, I always look for people that are looking to do something on their own, that are looking to affect change, that are looking to change the world. You know, I read somewhere once that you should never start something unless it's about changing the world. And I firmly believe that. I don't believe an idea is worth pursuing if in some vision in your own mind you don't see it as being a world-changing or changing the world type of endeavor, because I believe it takes that kind of vision and imagination to see most ideas through when you're dealing with mediocrity and skepticism and, you know, negativity and mediocrity that will be flooding into you as input from the averageness of the society that we live in on a daily basis. But as far as having a particular method, the best method is to go out into the world and expect to meet great people with a smile on your face and treat everybody as if they're wonderful, and you'd be surprised when you do that how often you meet wonderful people. Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say you should stay unmuted, Eileen, so that you can have more of a dialogue. You know, when Lisa's ready for feedback, it would be good if you're there. Unless you want me to be.
Talking, but I kind of, you know, want to get with what's interesting to your audience, or how I can help them in some way.
Well, one of Jeff had asked a question, which I think everybody has, which is for people who are just getting started with online marketing and they're introverted, what is the best way for them to start to develop relationships if they don't feel like they have many right now?
Well, first off, the thing that I would say is, you know, I don't really know extrovert, introvert. I don't like labels. I think that everybody has something that they're passionate about, and when they're talking about what they're passionate about, or when they're surrounded by what they're passionate about and they're in their comfort zone, they're anything but introverted. But having said that, be authentic. The biggest challenge that most people have is, I think that they're trying to be something other than what they are. They have some vision of who they think other people expect them to be. And what I learned early on, and believe me, I went through it. Everybody has been through it. Nobody was born a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief. Well, I guess you could be born an Indian chief, but you wouldn't be born knowing how to be an Indian chief. You just might hereditarily be an Indian chief. Nobody was born to be an online, knowing how to be an online marketer or knowing how to be a speaker. And everybody goes through periods of discomfort and then moving through them. And you just have to be yourself. And part of the charm that makes you attractive to people is the willingness not to get out on a stage or in front of people on a webinar or in an email or on a one-on-one phone conversation or whatever format that you're communicating in and show them how much you know. It's the willingness to get in front of people and let them see the vulnerability of what you don't know and that you're still willing to do it anyway. If you think about it, people are very seldomly moved by facts. They're always moved by the story, and every story has a hero. And what makes the hero of a story the hero? It's the fact that they moved against overcame great odds, adversity, and the adversity may be the guy who was shy and afraid to talk, and yet in spite of that, because he felt so passionate about whatever it was, or cared so much about the person that was in front of him, he cared enough about that person and that person have a chance to make a change, to make a difference in their lives, that he was willing to trip over his own words and speak above a whisper just to ask that person if maybe they wanted the chance to look at something that might make a difference for them. Because you have to remember, you are in the life-changing business. You are in the business of making a difference in people's lives. It is a lofty, worthy, wonderful mission. And it's not about you. It's not about your ability to speak. It's not about your ability to be polished. It's not about what a great salesperson you are. It's not about any of that. It's about the fact that you have an answer, and most people are in search of an answer, and it's about the person in front of you who might be a month away from losing everything, or a month away from believing that they have no option and that they are stuck in a prison of working for someone else for the rest of their lives, and that all their dreams are going to die in obscurity because they have no way out. And here you are with an answer. It doesn't matter how brilliantly you deliver the answer. It matters that you care enough to be willing to try. And that is the nobility of the effort, and that is what makes the hero. So if you can go out and be yourself, that is all that matters. Because here's what I can guarantee you. If you want to do a good meeting, do 100 bad ones. And you'll do an okay meeting. Do 200 bad ones and you'll do a good meeting. Do 300 bad ones and you'll do a great meeting. Let me tell you what just happened to me. I was in Bangkok. I was about to speak in front of 5,000 people. It was one of my biggest fears finally came true. I was coming from behind the stage where the stage splits, and you walk out from behind one of the big displays where it splits and the lights are on you and the music is up. And it was white steps and they didn't have black strips on them, and I couldn't really see. And I literally took a step, missed the step, and fell down the stairs and landed flat on my ass in front of 5,000 people. That was my grand entrance on the stage to speak. And I'd always been afraid of that, and I stood up and I said, well, in this business, you get to meet all your fears, and that's one I can cross off my list. Don't have to worry about that anymore. I've done it, and I survived to tell the tale. And I was mortified. But what are you going to do? You get up, you dust yourself off, and you go on with the show. But now that that's happened, I'm not afraid of it anymore. And it really was a big fear for years and years and years. Every time I came down one of those ramps, it was with trepidation and fear because I knew that one day it would happen. But you can't let it stop you, because you will have people that reject you. But they will if you were the best speaker in the whole world and you delivered the most stunning presentation with the most incredible information, with a deal that nobody could refuse, you would still have people that reject what you have to say. It doesn't mean that they're rejecting you. So the way that you go out and build relationships is remembering that you are looking for people that mesh up with you, and those that do, it's great to make those connections, and those that don't, you weren't going to connect with them anyway, and now you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can cross off your list and not worry about it. Just be yourself. Authenticity trumps polish and slick every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
I love that. And I can see some great comments from the audience. We are totally in sync with that. So, Eileen?
Where are comments? How can I see comments?
Yeah, I joined as an attendee because of the technical difficulties. That's why I can't see who's asking what questions. So you got to take care of that. But Lisa, just before... Okay. Do we have any so far?
So far, we have answered all the questions that have come up.
Okay. So, Lisa, I think one of the... There's always this, I guess, sort of step where you go from that going out of, your comfort zone to do things, and for the first time you're going to be facing rejections and negatives. What would you say allows you to pass by that one step and move on further?
Keeping your eye on the prize. You always have to know what you're working for. And by the way, it's not the first time. The first time you face rejection is when you go out to the playground and you're not the first person picked for kickball. Okay? And we get used to this our entire life. It's when somebody else gets asked to the prom by the boy that you wanted to ask you. It's when when you work really, really hard on the paper that you thought you were going to get an A on, and you get a B, and somebody you don't think's work was as good as yours gets the A, and you say, oh my gosh, life isn't fair. It's constantly not working out exactly the way that we would like it to. But you have to keep your eye on what it is you're trying to create. You see, people that are successful always have their focus on their vision of what they're creating is the key, is what they're focused on. They always have the picture of what they're creating in their mind is what their number one focus is. So it's not about who says yes or no. You need a lot of people in an interdependent society to achieve success. You need a tribe of people that will join you to accomplish anything great. But there are no particular name badges, the preordained with whose names are on them. And when you're hanging with great people, it doesn't really matter who catches the vision and who doesn't. Where people get themselves off track is believing that they're supposed to convince people who it is not right for that it is right for. And that's not the job. Our job is to look for those that are looking for what we have to offer, and understanding that even if it is the right thing for that person, it may not be the right time. So what you're always trying to look for is high noon, because timing changes. And if you're building a relationship with somebody, it's not about you and what you want for them, it's about them and what they want for themselves. So if you treat them with respect, if you encourage them to get all the information and to make the best decision for themselves, if you can get people to understand and take them through a process where they understand that if they are not happy, and most people are not happy, they're not content, but they're really not in touch with that. So you start to question them and say, are you living the life you deserve? Are you living the life that you want? Because you deserve to have everything. And is the path you're on going to get that for you? And what are those things that you want? Because very often people have disconnected from that. The longer they've spent in survival and settlement mode, the more disconnected they get from the dreams that they one time had. Those dreams become abstract, and they become vague, and they're not specific and identifiable. And if you can reconnect them with those things, the next question is the path you're on likely to get you those things? And if the answer to that is no, do you have a plan? And if the answer to that is no, would you like to see one? Because I've got one. And it might not be for you. It probably isn't for you. But since we know that you need one, why don't you get all the information that is necessary to make an informed decision? And if you do that, I'm going to respect whatever decision you make. And if it's not this, you can cross that off your list, and then you can go look for something else and something else and something else until you find the plan that is correct and right for you. And if you truly respect people And you can take them through that process without any emotional attachment to their outcome, only that they start to think for themselves, that you can help them become a person who moves from vague generality to precise thinker who identifies, okay, I need a plan, I'm going to go look at plans, I'm going to find something that resonates with me so I can change my life. If you can interact with enough people and get them to go through that process and consider what you have to offer because you've taken them through that process and make an informed decision, you will have a multitude of people that will join you in whatever you're doing because it will appeal to some. You will have a multitude of people that will be interested in your product, if not interested in your business. And you will also have a multitude of people that will go on to do other things, but will remember and connect with you because you mentored them to what was great for them, not what you wanted them to do. And there are always other things you can do besides whatever it is you initially spoke on. Some of the biggest and most exciting things that I have done in my business career have been things I've done with people where we did not connect on what we originally spoke about a decade ago, and it's 10 years later we're doing interesting things together that have nothing to do with our primary focuses. Because that's what comes from being part of great communities and developing great relationships, living to serve others and helping them get to their highest, most optimal outcomes, and being significant and invaluable in that process for them will bind them to you in ways you can't even imagine and bring you things that are intangible, immeasurable, and in the same token, unbelievably rewardable when it comes to your business, your career, your personal life, your financial success, anything and everything you can possibly imagine.
Okay, we have a question from Cindy Martini. She asks, how do you face your fears? How do you overcome the fear?
Cindy, that's a very good question. Let me share with you that I don't believe you ever actually overcome fears. I just think you move on in spite of them. And let me tell you, other people may disagree, but I'll tell you how it is that I came to that conclusion. I have a thing with heights, specifically with balance and heights. And I went through this ropes course because I was going to conquer my fear. And I was so excited to go conquer my fear. And I was with a great group of people that I went through the course with. It was a wonderful thing for team building, by the way. And we got to the various things that were on the ground, and they pretty much scared me to death, too, because they were balance issues. And you get to where you're climbing up the telephone pole. And when you get to the top of the telephone pole, you basically have to stand. You get to one thing where you're no longer holding on to anything with your hands. You step up and you turn to jump for a trapeze. And it literally scared me to death. I was paralyzed with fear, and the whole team was, you can do it, Lisa, you can do it, you can do it. And it probably took me an hour to get up this pole and stand on the pole and turn and jump for the trapeze, which I missed, but I was all harnessed in. And, you know, and come back to the bottom. And I was so excited because I did it, and I dashed on adrenaline for the telephone pole because I had now conquered my fear. And I was about halfway up the telephone pole to do it again when I realized I was petrified, that my fear had not been conquered at all. But here's what happens. Unlike the first time I did it, I knew that I could because I had done it already. And the knowledge that you can do it is a different kind of fear than the fear of the unknown and the belief that you cannot do it. So while I am still afraid of heights, once you do something once, even if you do it very, very badly, nothing is the same as crossing the line and doing it the first time. Once you've done it, the only way to go is up. So I don't believe that one ever conquers one's fear. I think that things that make us nervous under stress, they will continue to make us nervous. I think we can always revert back to those fears because fears are not rational. They're irrational. But I think the only way that you move through, the only way that you don't let the fear defeat you is, you know, take a note out of Eleanor Roosevelt's book. Courage is not conquering your fear. It is doing things in spite of your fear. It's moving through the fear and not letting the fear stop you. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is by painting yourself the worst case scenario. You know, what is the worst thing that can happen? And if you sketch it out and it's something you can live with, and here's an example. I don't know, we'll just take we'll take an imaginary opportunity. The XYZ company is $1,000 to get set up, to do whatever it is. If I were to get $1,000 today, if anybody online were to get $1,000 in your hand, you've got $1,000 cash, you walk outside, you trip. The money flies out of your hand, it goes down the gutter into a pothole, never to return. I don't know about all of you, but I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be really, really upset. I'd stomp my feet, I'd get miserably unhappy, and the next day I would dust myself off, because while I'd be really upset at the loss of that money, realistically, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get evicted, because I will find a way to replace it. The world is not going to come to an end. Now, that's the worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario? I invest my $1,000 and I make $1 million in the next 12 months. That's probably not going to happen either. So now I've got my worst case scenario. I can live with it. I've got my best case scenario. I can certainly live with that. And where's the truth? Probably somewhere in the middle. So if you know you can live with the worst case scenario and you know you can live with the best case scenario, there's no reason not to just get in and go for it and find out where the truth really lay. Does that make sense? And Cindy, I can't really see, but if you could print out online, did that help at all?
Cindy, do you mind commenting in the group to say if you already got your answer or need a little bit more specific on the details?
Okay, all right. So anyway, any more? I think I can now see these, I think.
Okay.
I'm just tell you if they go. Okay, good. Any other questions?
Do you see the
I can see the questions. I just didn't realize you had to refresh them, which was the problem I was having. So as you see, folks, you can be a techno idiot. I am.
All right. Is it, given that the U.S. market is not as motivated as the Asian market, is there something that you would suggest that we do differently here to reach the U.S. market? I guess this question was asked a while back when you were talking about both markets.
Actually, I don't know that I believe that. I don't believe that the U.S. market is not as motivated. I think that the U.S. market, and I don't even like to speak to generalities, but I will say that I think the U.S. market is more comfortable than the Asian markets. You know, I don't think that people here have it so tough. I think they have it much easier. You know, people will sit on their couches in their rather large homes compared to what you might find overseas in front of their very large television sets, watching them, complaining about how they really wish things were better. But the question is, are they willing to get up and do things to make them better? And, you know, it's just a different mindset because of a different, you know, it's a different mentality because of where people sit in their, you know, evolutionary curve of business. If you go to Southeast Asia, home-based business, new business, being in your own business, this type of opportunity, this type of freedom to be able to sweat equity, it's somewhat different. It's relatively a new concept. And people are hungrier perhaps because they don't have quite as much. I think sometimes people achieve their best when they are at their, when they're, you know, desperate times. Some of the best innovation and the best ideas are born when people have no choice. So I guess if you can get yourself into a mentality where you have no choice, where you have to make it work, if you can get yourself to a place where you have to make it work. But I also believe that if you have to motivate yourself, if you have to keep motivating yourself, that maybe you're not either doing the right thing or that you haven't found the right way to look at it. Because if you really love what you're doing, if you're really inspired by what you're doing, you typically can't sleep. You go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, and it just excites you, it jazzes you, draw energy from it. For example, I love this. I don't really understand why it is that people like to listen to me. My father once said, if you ever can find a job where people pay you for talking, that's the job you should get. But I love connecting with people. I love the idea that maybe something I might say might put a light bulb on for somebody that I know or somebody that I don't know, and it might start some sort of a ripple effect that helps somebody somewhere maybe make a change that makes a difference, because that is the ultimate turn on for me, that I can make it, maybe could make a difference in someone's life. So if you're doing something that just you love, then you really don't have to push yourself all the time to get to work, if that makes sense. But so don't get hung up in tactical. You may be in the right opportunity, but I'm very much form over substance over form, rather. And a lot of people have challenges with me over that. So I guess that comes back to being true to yourself and being authentic. If I'm on a stage that requires me to be a suit, I'll be all suited up. But half the time I'm running around jeans, a t-shirt, and a ponytail, and there are people that say, well, I don't like the way she's dressed. And I'm like, how are you supposed to be dressed to go to the grocery store? So be up, so I think that when it comes to the U.S. market, it's a function with any individual of finding their hot button, and that comes through listening. I think that so often people are so excited about whatever it is they're doing or whatever it is they found that they get caught up in presentation mode, and they find themselves doing so much talking, and if you're talking, you're not listening and you're not asking questions. And I think the biggest secret that I can give anybody is just ask questions, because if you think about it, everybody's favorite topic is themselves. Everybody feels unworthy. Everybody wants to feel that they're important, that they matter, that someone cares about them. And when you go ahead and you start to ask people about themselves, imagine that everybody you talk to has a bucket full of stuff that nobody's allowed them to express, especially women. And I'm not being sexist here, but women raise kids, their wives, they're expected to be Amazonian superwomen in this generation. And they spend so much time wearing all these hats that very often they feel that there's nothing of themselves left, and they can't talk about themselves. And when they have the opportunity to just empty that bucket's now got room for you to put other stuff in. And if you care about them, they will care about what you have to say. And then it becomes very easy to know what it is they're looking for. And then you can match what you're saying to their need, and you can connect on a level that they're more likely to be responsive. And I don't think that most people are looking for a sales pitch. I think stories are the key. I think they've always been the key. What is so inspiring about Steve Jobs? Is it the facts and figures of Apple Computer, or is it the story of what he was able to do in the building of Apple Computer? It's the Apple story that mesmerizes people. It's the Dell story of what Michael Dell did out of a college dorm room that mesmerizes people. It's what Henry Ford did that revolutionized the way that business was done in the Industrial Revolution that mesmerizes people. So telling people stories and letting them, because they're human, that they can relate to, letting them see that you're human, letting them see that you're vulnerable makes it okay for them to be vulnerable. The more perfect you are, the more intimidating you are to the person who doesn't feel themselves to be perfect. So if you can relate to people on a human level, it all works out much better than if you come off as a super presenter, just wanting to inundate people with how well you know your information or how great you can present whatever it is you're trying to present, if that helps.
Rob, can you see the questions?
Let me refresh
Rob?
and see if I can see questions.
Yep.
Let me see. Questions. 12 more comments. Look for possibility. I see comments on my comments. I don't see any questions. So who has questions?
Questions are in the chat.
I'm looking at the chat and I'm reading them. I see a lot of comments.
Yeah,
I don't
me
see
too.
questions, which means it's back to you guys for questions. Where do you want to go?
Hold on a second. There's somebody with a question, but I have no idea. I can't recognize who it is. The name is Online Success.
That's probably Charlie.
Okay.
Okay, so what's the question?
Are you saying the last thing on there? It's just not a repetition?
No.
Continue.
It says, unmute me, please.
Okay.
Oh, is it a matter of repetition? I get the question. Okay, yeah, yes and no. I believe that yes, things are a process, not an event. I think it is more, if somebody is actually looking or approaches you, and that happens. As you build a community and as you build a brand of your own, and as people get to know you, you will be approached by people that want to work with you, or by people that have found whatever opportunity or whatever company you're working with and find out that you're in it, and because they feel connected to you, they will call you on it. But if you're introducing something to somebody for the first time, and they're not what we would refer to as somebody that's just going to follow you because they want to follow you into something, it's actually going to be a decision based on whether it's a business that resonates with them, something that they see themselves doing, something that they can feel passionate about, that they feel is where they want to make their contribution. I believe that is a process. But it's not a matter of repetition, because if it's just repeating the same thing over and over again, that would give anybody a headache. It's a matter of giving people different exposures where their timing might have changed, where you're giving them new information, where you're putting them in front of new people so that they can hear different perspectives or new methods of getting the information. It's everything they need that is to make an informed decision. And what I have found is this is a good formula. Imagine that every single person that you're interacting with, in whatever way that you're interacting with them, whether it's through an autoresponder series, which I know little or nothing about, but it's the same type of thing, as long as you're speaking to one person, and I don't care if you're sending out a letter that goes out to 1,000 individuals, everything you write, everything you do, in my opinion, should be as if you're speaking to one person. You know, and if you're speaking from the stage and there's 1,000 people in the room, it's like you're talking to one person, because everyone is an individual. So what you're doing is imagine that every person you're speaking with or interacting with or in process with would eventually do business with you the 7th time it comes up, but only if they're excited to hear from you and be with you the 7th time it comes up. And that means handling people and treating people with respect, dignity, and in a relationship. Because if people get the feeling that your only interest in them is to do business, is to get them in your business, you have to think about every conversation. Is it transactional? And if so, is it a transaction for their benefit, or is it a transaction for your benefit? Because the minute people feel you're trying to get them in something for your benefit, it's unlikely that they're going to want to pursue it with you. So it's not necessarily a matter of repetition, but it is a process over time. And while the information highway that you put people on, the funnel, the pipeline, whatever it is, where you get them in front of different formats for the information, which, by the way, should be anything but you. I believe you are a tour guide, and everything you put people in front of when they are direct prospects is third party. But when you're doing that, it should also be interactive as far as a relationship with them, because people really should believe, and you should believe, and not be emotionally attached to their outcome. Because if I could get every person I ever dealt with to look at whatever it is with an open mind, get all the information and make an informed decision so that I truly believe that they made a decision that was best for them based on relevant and pertinent facts, I'd be thrilled whichever way they went. I just don't like to see people discount things out of hand and say no to things when they don't understand what it is they're saying no to. Because smart people don't do that. Smart people say no to many more things than they say yes to, because of time and because of knowing themselves and because of understanding that they want to put their efforts where they're going to yield the greatest result. That's different things for different people. But they never say no to things without getting all the information, because you can't make good decisions without all the information. And if we can get people to just make good decisions, then we're going to do very, very well just based on that.
Okay. When you're speaking about time, there's Alina from Kitchener, Ontario has a question. She's asking, Lisa, what would you say is the average time per day, week, or month one should commit in order to succeed as internet marketer or home-based business owner?
Well, that's an interesting question, Elena, and it's difficult to answer simply because so many people come to the business part-time and transition into making it a full-time career, and some come to it part-time and never transition into making it a full-time career. So I would give you more concepts than I would amounts of time, and the reason for that is also it's results. For example, It's how effective are you with time management. Some people, might talk or connect with 5 people in a month's time. Other people might do that in a week. I might talk to 5 people in a day or an hour. When you work on the internet, you have the ability to cast a much larger net perhaps than some people who deal one-on-one with people. On the other hand, if you have the ability to connect with influencers, which after many, many years I've had the good fortune to be able to do sometimes, then one person can yield you to a great many people, because we're all one. You're one connection away from radically changing your life or your circumstances, if in fact it's the right connection. So here's what I would say. I would say that most people focus on what they can't do rather than what they can. So I think that when a person is starting out in business, to get a business into momentum, I think massive action is always going to be the most effective. So I always tell people your first 90 days are key. And I don't mean your first 90 days from when you heard of it. I don't care if you've been doing something for a year. It's the first 90 days that you get serious. And for people that are part-time or full-time, what you need to do is take a calendar of the next 90 days and take out a calendar and fill in everything that you cannot miss. People always say, well, I can't give up this and I can't give up that. Write those things in. You have to be, I don't believe in sacrificing your life in order to get the life you want, because family, those things are important. So if there's, soccer games that you have to be at, maybe you can split them with your spouse, but you have to be at least some. Write down all the things that you have to do, that you can't give up, that you don't want to give up. If you do that all the time, and then write down things that really are important to you, that you feel you have to be at, your job, that you would be fired from, that you need to pay the bills until you break through in what you're doing for yourself. If you take all the time that is left, once you've filled in your have-tos, for the first 90 days, all of it should be devoted to your business, getting your business into momentum. 90-day runs. After that, you can scale it back somewhat, see where you're at, adjust, look at your goals, and then maybe 60 days later do another 90-day push. I found that it's very difficult for people to do more than a couple of 90-day pushes a year if you're really going all-out massive action. Now, that again depends. There are people that I know that are internet marketers that make a great deal of money, but they move from launch to launch to launch without really ever building anything. I know other internet marketers that have built substantial businesses that almost can make income on demand, that have consistent, ongoing income because they built such successful communities. They don't have a list. They don't even have an audience. They have a community within that list. People that ardently follow them, that believe in them, that they have treated with a great deal of respect, that they have never misled, that they've always brought value to. They don't take the, I can make a lot of money by selling this. They only bring things to that list they really, really believe in. And I'm more of a believer in that, in building things, than I am in just things that can just, in short-term things that can make a lot of money. I'm not opposed to it. There are events and certain products and things that you design, of course, but it's all what you're looking for. But if you're looking to build something that is going to sustain you and give you mailbox money for years and years and years, I can tell you that over the last 15 years, I've had 2 very successful, one that went for 8 years and the one I've been working on the last 6, all with the same team of people, in the network marketing arena, and almost all of the income that I receive on a monthly basis can be traced back to that original 90 days. And then there have been subsequent 90-day pushes where I've worked hard to sustain and to grow that business and to support the people in it. But for years, I can trace back almost all the income I made to those initial 90-day runs. So I don't believe there's anything as effective as putting all the time you can. But don't focus on what you can't do. Too many people focus on what they can't do. I find that if people do everything they can do, they have little time to worry about what they can't do.
Okay, up next.
Amen to that.
Yeah, can you unmute Charlie?
He is unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
We can. I don't know if that's such a good idea. but you're on the air.
Well, thank you
Charlie
very
Hannon
much, Rob.
Yes.
Hi, Charlie. What's up?
Hi, Lisa. It's very nice to have you here. I've been trying to type messages all night. I have been somewhat technologically challenged in
All my life, you're in good company.
well, right before the event tonight when you were on, I sat down and I had my drink on my side, everything ready to go, and I spelled it on the keyboard, so I have no A or no S now, so I'm typing everything without an A or an S. That's very difficult. So I know that overcoming challenges is one thing, but one of the things I wanted to know is what do you suggest, because I'm a newbie. I have a lot of people that are with me that are newbies that are interested in how they can get started and what they need to do. And I understand that you're saying just take it one step at a time, but I want to make it duplicatable so that they can do the same thing. They can tell their story, brand themselves, get themselves out there so that people know them on a personal level, and then that they can go out and help those people and be rewarded for doing so. But what are your suggestions on how to get started in overcoming that? This is one thing I think the MOB or the Brain Trust is doing is coming together as a group to help everyone get through the technological challenges, the fan page challenges, all of these little things that you need to do before you can start really rocking and rolling online. Can you address that?
Well, personally, if it was me, I just get busy, and I think where there's a will, there's a way. But if you've got a group of people that have come together in a mastermind, go put tutorials together on how to set all that stuff up so you can just point people to it and be done with it. Anything that is technical or tactical is something that can be done outsourced. Now, a lot of people, when they initially get started, don't have the money to do that. But here's a hard concept for people to wrap their arms around. If it can be done by somebody else, you're never going to get rich doing it. If it can be done by someone else, you're never going to get rich doing it. The world rewards people by contribution. The bigger the paycheck, the more lives you've impacted. And learning how to set up a Facebook fan page, since you can go on Fiverr and get people to do that for like $10, the amount of time it's going to take somebody to learn how to do that on their own is a long period of time. So the first thing I would do is take your group, you've got a community, find the people that are really good at being able to put that stuff down, or find somebody, or find somebody that's already got it out there. But work collectively as a group and get somebody just to do down and dirty videos on how to set it up, and then point people to it. Get as much of the technical stuff up on video tutorials as you can, as quickly as you can, in no more than 3 minutes, 3-minute segments, one thing per video. 1-minute wonders, we used to call them, and then be done with it. Because it doesn't make anybody any money. It just gets them set up to make money. So you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. It will immobilize people. The more you give people that keeps them from the business of what they need to be doing, the more they will never do what they need to be doing. And what they need to be doing is getting out and interacting with people in whatever format they're doing it with. I just got a Facebook fan page put up for me about a month ago, and like nobody's liked it because I haven't had time to tell anybody about it. And I don't have a website yet. I've been working on one for years, but I have no time because I'm always on the road. Now, eventually I'll get that done. I've got people finally working on it. But, and I finally decided to outsource it. So I think for as far as duplication, in the first 90 days, people don't have a story. Their job is to go get one. And the story is, I got started. I talked to X number of people, or I sent X number of emails, or I did whatever it was I did, and look at what great things happened to me. You don't want the story to be, went down the rabbit hole because I couldn't figure out how to all the technical stuff with setting up this, that, and the other thing, because that's everybody's biggest fear to begin with. Right?
I agree.
So like I said, the more you can automate that for them, either find people that are good at it, that want to make some money, that will set everybody up for cheap, that you can refer people to, or get video tutorials up for them to do it themselves, or ideally give them both options. And then don't ever discuss it. If you want it to be duplicable, say you can either go here, follow these tutorials, do it yourself, or you can go to these people, give them X number of dollars, and they'll do it. But neither one of those things is important. Just get it set up so you don't start, because that's pre-business. That's not the business. And then go here so we can go start making money.
Don't get lost in the details then.
Well, there are details to get lost in, but those aren't them.
Gotcha.
The technical and the tactical. I love that. That's so true, you know. Those are not the money-making activities. Eileen?
Yes.
You've done an amazing job hosting. This is incredible. Go ahead.
This is great. Well, first of all, I'd just like to address the whole thing with the technical difficulties. I guess day in and day out, I'm still having them, like I am currently. But what really, like Lisa said, what really gets you going and keeping up is you got your eyes on the prize. So that became kind of, I started to set goals for myself after I met Lisa, after I got to know her, and she actually talked about the 90 days. So I started setting those goals, and I realized that once I do set these goals, it's so much easier to achieve them, because every single day I'm just going to be thinking about and doing the things, taking action based on what's going to get me to that goal. And so the next question we've got is from Navjot in India. He wants to know...
I see the question.
Yeah. What are the biggest... Yeah.
Yeah. First off, I'll come to your question in 1 second, Navjot. I just want to say one more thing about the thing that you were just saying. Here's an example. I mean, obviously, tonight's a perfect example. I landed late last night from a month in the Middle East and in Asia. Prior to that, I'd spent another month in the Middle East. I mean, I'm sorry, in Asia, where I was home, and I was home for 4 days, and then I went to Kabul for a week and went back to Asia. So obviously tonight, we didn't really work. None of us are GoToWebinar geniuses, as you all saw, trying to get on this webinar. We have 4 slides that I never saw before the webinar because I'm trying to run around because tomorrow I'm leaving for Norway, but I really wanted to do this call for you. So we've had every kind of technical difficulty you can imagine. We started 10 minutes late. Certainly in the future, we would like to have better slides, start on time, have more proficient knowledge of how to use GoToMeeting, and have our questions more dialed in so we don't have some pregnant pauses. And at the end of the day, the content will change almost not at all. So that's what I meant earlier when I said substance over form, because we can make it look a whole lot better and be a whole lot prettier and put a better bow on it, but the substance of what I would be saying would be exactly the same whether I was standing on a stage in Europe in a fancy suit or whether I was talking here or had someone across from a table. And that's where I want to get you to. The technology is there to help you. It is not there to it's not there to cripple you. It is an aid, not a stumbling block. And if you can look at it that way, then it'll be great. The biggest and the worst mistakes which should be avoided during building business for relationships. The biggest mistake, value people and use things. Don't mix them up. If you don't mix them up, you'll do great. Focus on the other person. Don't make the mistake of thinking that no means never, because sometimes it means not now. Always your loyalty should always be to the person who's in front of you. And what's best for them, because in the end, what's best for them is best for you, because the single biggest asset you have is your relationships. Companies, businesses come and go, and there are always other opportunities. You never know where one relationship will lead. You're one contact away from radically changing your life. It's a small world. So value every person and treat every person you meet with respect, even those you walk away from, because your reputation and credibility is a crock. I think people are caught up in it too much. Some things work, some things don't. Always be as honest as you can be with people, but honest doesn't mean you always have to be right. You always give people your most valued opinion based on the information that you have at the time, and opinions can change based on new information. You're not always going to guess right. So as long as people can get mad at you for telling them the truth. You don't ever want people to get mad at you for feeling that you misled them or that you lied to them. So always try to be open and honest with people. That doesn't mean to be Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Don't ever be motivated by fear of loss, although it's a wonderful thing to utilize on others, but you always want to be making clear-headed decisions. And I would say the biggest mistake to avoid, don't spend time, the people that fail spend too much time with the wrong people. So here's the mistake I'll tell you, and it was one I just taught on my trip in Israel. I get a lot of people always wanting to talk to you about how to get new people and how to get these people in their business. I get a lot of questions on how to get so-and-so, get this person or get that person or deal with this objection or that objection. I don't get as many questions about how to help the people that have already committed to you and said yes. Always remember that the best people you have are the ones that are already in your business and the people that they know that haven't seen the business yet, because working in depth can build an army and build a community in ways that when everybody has been coming in because of you, you can never achieve. Because people who know people who know people who know people can take you places that you will never get in with, because you're 6 degrees away from knowing everybody in the world. If it's all people that you're meeting and it's all about who you're getting, you're still 5 degrees away from everyone else. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. Rob?
Very powerful. So it is. It's been about an hour, and Lisa, as she told you, she is heading out in the morning, but she also mentioned that she is here for us. So this is your chance. If you have other questions for Lisa that can help you to get to the next level, if you're struggling at all with relationships, this is the time. Building relationships, as Lisa said, community, it's more than a network. It's actually getting out there and understanding, listening to people, and helping to solve their problems, being there as a solution for their problems. Any
Lisa,
other questions?
Yes, I actually have a question. Lisa, if you're in a community or a team and not everyone has the same goals or different ethics and work behavior, would you still be, I guess in this case, would I still go on and carry on to do what we thought was doable? Because there are always disagreements and ideas from different people. So what would you suggest?
That's a function of leadership. You know, not everybody is a leader in every community. There's contributors, there's support people, but most of the people in a community are following the leader in any community. If you look at it, and the culture the culture of a community, you know, the speed of the group the speed of the group is always, the speed of the pack is determined by the leader, by the lead dog. And the culture in a community, the discipline of a community, the way a community behaves is always dictated by the leadership, because ultimately people will either conform to what is the norm of the community, or they will feel uncomfortable there and they will find another community. And so whoever the strongest, wherever the strength comes from will dictate the personality of the community.
Okay, by the way, the previous question, the biggest and worst mistakes in building business relationships, Navjot commented very valuable tips. I really appreciate your help. Thank you very much. This is Navjot from...
My pleasure, Navjot.
Awesome. All right, guys, do we have any more questions?
What is the, I think that you've touched on this in a lot of different ways indirectly, but in terms of live events and how they have played a role in the success of successful people that you have.
Well, I love live events. I think they're very, very important, especially the bigger ones. especially now that people are doing so much from home, because I think in a day and age where there were all the weekly meetings and meeting, I think people got meetinged out. But I think that events are an opportunity for people to get a bigger picture than what they are able to get on their own. I think it's where people connect and relate. It's where they connect to the bigger vision, that is where they understand that it is bigger than themselves. They connect to the larger mission, perhaps, of the organization. They get to meet people beyond the people that they already know, beyond what they have seen on a small group to get-togethers in their local market, or perhaps small things that happen within virtual settings such as this one. Typically, the bigger the event, the more seasoned veterans you'll have in an event, the better they'll be able to get training, and they'll be able to get exposure to new ideas. They'll be able to interact live with people that are making it happen. I think that for me, in my career, it's always been the opportunity to go and rub up close and personal with the superstars. I know that I've always wanted to go and always want to meet the people that are doing it. I think one of the biggest challenges that people have in business is, rather than spending time with the people that are making it happen and asking them how they make it work, they spend a lot of time with people that are not making it happen, talking about all the reasons that it won't work. And when you go to live events, you have the opportunity to be surrounded by the very best and the brightest in whatever particular arena the event is built around. So I have always made it a practice to get to as many as I can. And for years, I sat in the audience of many events. Now I get the privilege and pleasure of getting to speak at many of those stages. And I don't believe I would have ever been on those stages had I not been at those events, A, because that is where I learned and was able to observe and really absorb how events are done, and I was able to watch audiences and see what they responded to, what was effective, what motivated people, what caused people to move, what they responded to, what repelled them. I was able to watch speakers and see how they were able to affect response and feeling from the people they were speaking to. I was also able to meet many influential people who were very willing to help me and to share tips and advice with me. And I attribute more than anything the success I have today to live events. If I believed it could all be done online, and I believe that Hangouts are a wonderful innovation that makes wonderful things that weren't possible online, that I don't believe that are possible even with something like a webinar. But in spite of all of that, I wouldn't be getting on airplanes all the time. I wouldn't be going to Israel and Taiwan and Vietnam and Hong Kong and China and tomorrow off to Norway. I'd simply be phoning it in.
I hear you. Well, live events have certainly played a big role in my my path and my knowledge, and there was a time when I felt like I had learned everything that I needed to learn from stage at live events, and so I didn't really need to keep going. But
no, I'm forever always the student.
Always a student, and there's so much in just the relationships that happen that have nothing to do with the stage. It have to do with conversations in the hallway and conversations over the dinner table and in the bar at night. So it's just being there, right? This whole this title of this event was what was being present.
Leaders
right?
show up.
And that's showing up.
That's
the importance of showing up.
99% of success is showing up. Always has been, and that's not likely to change.
And so showing up isn't just being there in the audience is kind of where I had gotten to at a point in my business. But once I came with a different attitude and just really went to be among the people and just sharing and learning, it has made a huge difference. And there's times in your business when you don't realize that it's making a difference at all. It's just kind of a result of everything that you take in and synthesize, and at some point it all comes together to get you to that next level.
Awesome. All right. Lisa, I wanted to ask you a little bit on it's kind of more related to self-development, but this idea came from the fact that when I was talking to one of my team members roughly 2 weeks ago, and she mentioned that she didn't have the confidence and she wasn't creative and all that sort of things. And then as we got to talk about further on, I began to realize this woman, she is a direct, think outside of the box, super creative kind of person. And so when I asked her why why she thought that she wasn't creative, it was just the whole definition of creativity. So I began to think since that day that people are actually held back to do what they want to do based on this, classic definition of a certain thing, and they start to tell themselves, I am not this, I am not that, and that takes down their confidence level and their esteem. How would you suggest for somebody to keep building it and to not let it go
First off,
lower down?
I think that that's everybody. I think that everybody suffers from the disease of terminal comparison. I think that everybody has a voice inside of them telling them they're not good enough and they're not this and they're not that. And the only way to beat that voice is to just go do it. And you have to understand it, and it's truer words have never been spoken. You don't have to be good to start, and chances are you won't be, but you've got to start if you're ever going to be any good. I say this all the time. If people are looking for me to tell them that some way to be a great speaker without doing 150 bad meetings, some way to be a great writer without writing a lot of bad stuff, some way to skip over all the things that everybody goes through to get to the other side, there isn't. There's just no way. The only way to get there is to go through it. It would be like a kid coming to you and saying, Mommy, how do I go to college without going to kindergarten? You don't. It would be nice, but you don't. So the only way to overcome it is to accept reality. And the reality is what we all do is a business. And nobody would ask the questions that they ask if it was a job, because they would get fired. So the question becomes, would you want to employ yourself? If I took your business today and I put 100 people in your business that worked it exactly the way that you did, what would your business look like? Because the way to get the leader is to become the leader that you want to recruit. Because like attracts like. It's always been that way. It always will be that way. So
Awesome.
don't focus on what you aren't and what you can't do. Focus on what you are and what you can do. Because everybody has a gift, something that they are good at, something that they bring to a group, to a community, to a partnership, to an opportunity that makes the collective consciousness richer for their presence. Everybody's got it. And if they focus on that thing, they will flourish from there, whatever it is. You just have to ask the right questions. It comes back to asking questions. Ask empowering questions of yourself, of the people you're talking to, of your community, and you will find answers that are empowering. Ask negative questions, and you'll find questions that answer the negative questions, because your mind will always find answers for the questions it asks. And it will always seek proof for what it desires to prove.
So true.
By the way, guys, I was noticing a lot of you have friend requested me, and I am like maxed out. My assistant right now is like freeing up spaces. But in the interim, go ahead and follow my regular page and like my fan page. And then as soon as I get more spaces freed up, I'll accept you all on my personal page. And I put it up there at the top so you can get to my fan page. Because I just noticed I had like a gazillion requests for friends.
All right.
I've got 1,600 waiting right now.
We've got Sam from Perth, Australia, asking, can only leaders grow communities?
Yes and no. Leaders, sometimes it isn't the leader that starts the community. It's the first guy that steps out with him. Everybody can grow a community, but typically only leaders start communities. If you think about it, because it takes somebody to step out from the mainstream and stand up and say, I'm going to start something, and then share it with other people. It takes somebody to lead the pack, somebody who says, we're going to do something. It takes, all vision starts in any great idea, any great vision starts in the head of one person. And then they go out and they assemble a team, not to be confused with a group. A group is everybody who's involved in some capacity. A team is a small group of people that push the vision forward, and then everybody else who survives within the vision wants to be part of the group, part of the community. But great ideas or visions are seldom born in the minds of many. They start in the head of one guy, one girl, one person who has an idea and shares it with people that they know, love, and care about, and from that puts together a small team that pushes it forward. And that's typically how ideas start, or but anybody can grow a community once it starts. Right now, you have a community with 30 people in it. By tomorrow, you could have 300 people in it, because everybody as a part of the community can go out and invite people and bring people to the community to see what you're doing, bringing like-minded people together to help other people achieve their dreams, to remove a lot of the mystery, the intimidation of being in this online world of which everybody's going to join, sharing the stories and the experiences that each of you have that are different and yet collectively cover almost every fear or experience that somebody else out there is having, that makes them realize when they're here that they're not alone, that somebody else has been there before them. So everybody can grow a community, and everybody can become a leader and grow to be a leader within a community.
I was going to say something similar to what you just said at the end in response to the question, Sam, which is that you become a leader by starting a community if you're not already. I mean, you have to have that strategic thinking that the leader has, but it may be the first time that you're actually stepping out as a leader, but you will become a leader if you're going to be a successful community leader.
But a lot of times leaders, it takes stepping up and saying, okay, I'm going to go do this. But, there's a video I like, and it shows a crazy guy that starts this insane dance, and he just looks like a nut. And the second guy, a guy goes out with him and starts dancing crazy, and the second guy is really the leader. Because if he hadn't followed the first guy was just a guy dancing like a nut. But the second guy who joined in is who everybody in fact followed. So, and that's often the case. Was it, was it Bill Gates, or was it the other guy? Who knows? Bill Gates was the visionary, but who was the real leader? So usually a vision, it's usually one or two that work hand in hand, operate, great idea meets great execution, and sometimes they're not, sometimes it's not in the head of one person, it's in the head of a couple. But the idea usually starts with one.
Wow, so much powerful content. I think that everything we've heard tonight could easily be could be a book in and of itself. We don't need much more. But
you need a really good editor, considering how we started. Okay.
Just a little tiny bit of editing, but the content trumps any editing that's required.
We can do it again anytime you guys want. I'm happy to do anytime you guys want to jump online and chit chat about anything, or anytime I can help, I'm certainly willing to do that from wherever I happen to find myself in the world.
Well, we really appreciate it. We'll take one last minute and see if there's any last questions before we let Lisa go. She has lots to do before the morning. Everybody is so grateful for you being here. So shocked that you were willing to be here, but not only were you willing to be here, but you told me that it was an honor and a privilege.
It is, and I really appreciate it. I love the opportunity to get to interact with people that are up at this hour wanting to make the world a better place, and anytime, just reach out if I can help anyone with anything. That's what we're here for. And hopefully we'll get to meet live somewhere soon, all of you.
All right, we've got one question from Henry. How can one know a scalable business community to build a relationship with, bearing in mind of a future financial gain?
I don't know. The better the quality of the people that you're with, the more likely you are to make money with them. And your future financial gain, there are things today that I am making money with that who would have ever thunk it? You know, for example, the event where I met these guys, I was asked as a favor to come speak about community and future-proofing your brand through developing community versus commoditization, which will end your brand. And I was with my partner who originally wanted to talk about how to take a business from $1 million to $100 million, which he's done. And he ended up teaching people how to communicate better in their business. And we just were asked to go, and we thought it would be fun, and we had no particular agenda. And we've been contacted by I can't tell you how many people to do a variety of things to help them. You know, some because they're friends and they asked, some that are on joint venture capacity, some for a lot of money that we turned down because we don't have time, and a couple that are really, really intriguing to us. And that was because we got to visit a community one day. What I do know is that if you are with, the better the quality of the people you're hanging out with, the more innovative the quality of people that you're hanging out with, the better your masterminds that you are bringing your concerns and your skill set to, who in turn are bringing their skill set and their imagination to you, the more creative, the quicker that you will arrive at solutions that serve more people. At the end of the day, if you look at today's world, the majority of the money that is being created, the wealth that's being created, is going to people who have figured out a way to compress time. And that's just reality. They are people who are broke, are always worried about what they spend money on. People that have money spend money on anything they feel will save them time. For example, I pay for education all the time because I go to the very best, and if I can go to somebody who spent years to learn how to do something and hundreds of thousands of dollars of their money, let's say like a Dagan Smith, and spend $10,000 with him to take what it took him years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, and I can get that compressed so that I can learn it in a month, then that is great value to me because there's nothing more valuable than my time. Conversely, he's found a way to take what it took him, all that investment of time and money, and turn it into something that makes money for him, that creates a win-win for him and everybody in front of him. So if you're in communities that can compress time for you on your learning curve and then enable you to compress time for others, that's the keys to the kingdom. Because at the end of the day, the paycheck that you receive is very fair. A lot of people look at like the money that we generate and they say, well, that's not fair. It is. Just because the bigger the paycheck, the more lives that you've impacted, the more people around the world that you are helping. Right now, tonight, in an hour and a half, we've spoken to, I don't know how many people are on this call, but it's probably 50 to 1, 50 people to 1 of me. So I've got the ability to impact maybe 50 people in an hour of time. That makes an hour of my time worth a whole lot. Think about how you spend an hour of your time. Are you putting enough of a value on your time? And that's where most people don't make the money that they should. It's not how they spend their money and all the time they worry about, should I buy this or should I buy that? Because money's round. If you spend it in the wrong places, you can go make more. It's what do you spend your time doing and what kind of a value do you put on your time? And if you are out in the right communities with the right people, the opportunities will come, and you learn how to make contributions and be of value to those people, and the higher quality of the people that you can be of value to, the opportunities come at you so rapidly that it's just a function of what you want to say yes to, because you can't say yes to all of it. It's taken me a long time to reach that point in my career, but on a daily basis, it's what do I want to do? I say no to things I really want to do that would really be financially profitable because there aren't enough hours in the day. And that's really what happens when you put yourself into the right communities, and you start meeting influencers, and you find yourself involved in a lot of communities, and you can start making contributions to the various communities. So I think that when you relate it to future financial gain, it's the only way to ensure that you get future financial gain, because you can only do so much yourself. And if the majority of the people that you're hanging out with, if you're the smartest one in your group, which is typically what's happening from when you're recruiting, then your group is never going to be any, your business, whatever it is you're building, is never going to be any bigger than you or any bigger than your vision is at this moment. And it's hard to grow your vision if you're not around people whose vision is greater than yours at wherever particular moment you are in your growth in time. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. So powerful.
Okay, just one very, very last question that can be answered in seconds. When did you start deciding to speak on stage, and how many presentations do you think you've done now?
Well, first off, I never decided to speak on stage. I first started speaking, of course, in the network marketing arena. You know, you do opportunity presentations, which I managed to not do in a formal setting for 2 years, you know, in what I would call a hotel meeting. So I did that because it was part of the business, and I was okay. And then I did training, which was okay, you know, because how to make a list, how to do stuff, which was very, but I guess it was speaking, but it wasn't what I would call difficult speaking. It was part of the business. And when you have a PowerPoint in front of you that's, you know, make a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, tell a story here, tell a story there, you get better at it. But it was the storytelling that really helped me to develop a persona. But I was asked. You know, people started asking me to tell my story, I would say about 12 years ago. And for most of you have heard my story. If you haven't, it's online in a variety of places. And from that, I would be at events, and off stage, people would start asking my opinion on things, and I would start talking. People would say, well, can you come share that? And then about 4 years ago, when Eric Worre was starting Network Marketing Pro, his first event was 200 people. And we are old friends, and he asked me to come tell my story there, and that led to other people asking me to tell my story. And then Dave Wood, and in this space, Dave Wood and Dave Sharp were recording a master series for their opportunity, and they asked me if I'd come tell my story and do a training on, I don't know, opportunity thinking or possibility thinking or whatever it was, which I did. And from that, you know, Fernie and Ray Smalius and Ray Fong had seen me speak and asked me to speak at No Excuses, and one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. So I never really decided. The career started with people asking me to tell my story, and from that, they started asking me to train on various things, and mostly it was just giving common sense talks. But when I decided that I really was going to pursue it, really, I guess when it got outside of network marketing, you know, when I was asked to speak at No Excuses and at the event you all saw me at, and Diane Hockman and Eric and all these people started asking me to, I've never done a product yet, but I've been being asked for about the last year and a half to produce products. I thought maybe. So people ask and I say yes, but I really never decided to become a stage speaker. How many presentations have I done by now? Well, if you count opportunity presentations on big stages, I probably at least 20 a year. And that would be, you know, 500 or more people in the audience for various companies. If you count opportunity meetings and meetings of people's home, how many times have I spoken in front of groups by now? In 20 years, oh, it's got to be a couple thousand times. You know, but that's counting like 3 people in the living room, you know, drawing out company products, you know, et cetera. And things like this. I mean, you know, hangouts, webinars. Because to me, it's all the same. It never changes. The method of delivery may change, the format of where you're standing may change, but the content never does.
Awesome. All right. Am I muted, by the way? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
So, guys, that's really why we asked Lisa to come share, I guess, practically everything she knows tonight. because it has changed my life and it has changed Rob's life from what we learned on the stage of Mexico 2 months ago. And I think when you look at it nowadays, I think one thing that drives, whether it's financial difference or business success, business to the next level, that kind of thing, it all comes down to the people that you meet, the people that you get together with. And a lot of people whom I know you aren't, they won't decide to make that sacrifice to sit in a webinar for 2 hours. Until now, it's actually Eastern time. It's almost 1 a.m. So I appreciate all of you being here, and I understand all of your dedication. So, well, with that, thank you, Lisa, again, for so much for doing this for us. And if you like this webinar tonight, you can go to the group and come to the next one, which is going to be happening in the next few days, and we'll try to make it so that the time fits for everyone's schedule from all sorts of time zones. And yeah, Rob, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I would like to say that it may not be such a coincidence, but at the last event that I was at, Lisa has referred to it a couple of times here, and one of the things that I was hoping to get out of the event was to be able to spend some time with Lisa, because she, by that point, knew a lot about me, and I wanted to see if she had some thoughts, ideas that might be able to help me. And in the first few seconds we were together, her comment was, it's about community. So that's really why this event tonight is so relevant, because I knew that, and when she said it to me, it was so obvious. But at the time, I said, "Well, this is a community. You know, we're here at this event. It's already, you know, there's a lot of leaders that already have communities. What can I possibly do that would be worthy of people joining a community?" And I left the event not necessarily knowing the answer to that question either, and I did not form a community because of that conversation directly. But that's really how events and how conversations can impact the direction that you take your business. Because it was when the idea came together to do a co-op, and then realizing that the people that were participating in the co-op it was smart money, so we should get those people together and create a mastermind. And well, if we're going to do that, now that's a reason for a community. So find your own reason if that's what you are looking for, to either join a community or start a community, but get involved, because it's so much more powerful. And I'm so thankful for Lisa for tonight and for just that. I mean, we talked a lot more, but that was really the only conversation we had about my business, and that has been a huge part. And for those of you that have seen my webinar about the David versus Goliath co-op, I mentioned that, just the fact that that conversation, realizing the community is such an important piece, and my experience in the last 2 years as well has demonstrated that when you're working with a team or with a community, that you can do so much more than you can alone. So I'm so grateful that in the little time Lisa was here, she has been so giving, and also for Eileen Chen, this 21-year-old dynamo from Toronto, Canada, who is among the younger people that I work with, but definitely one of the brightest and most ambitious, and somebody you definitely can, if you can just have half of the energy that Eileen has, then you're off to a great start with your business and with your life. We hope that we will be able to share with you again on Friday night. We'll have another wonderful host, and it'll be hard to top tonight, I think, but we'll do our best to make it worth your time. For some of you in the Eastern Hemisphere, it'll be Saturday morning, and we look forward to seeing as many of you as can make it. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you so
again,
much
Lisa,
for having me, guys.
Thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Lisa, once again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Button, you're recording now. You're back on the air.
So, you know, the same things that I got from, well, similar things. It was just to begin with, she spoke about the 90 days in Cabo, if I remember correctly, but somewhere around that time I learned that, with the 90 days, and that was a moment I decided on the spot, okay, this is my 90 days, because I am done, kind of fooling around just trying to learn everything and all of that. And I started really setting goals, and it's been quite right. I mean, in the past 2 months, I'd say I've grown, learned, made a lot more than I have ever in the past, and compared to the past September, August, July, June. What comes before June? May, April, and March. So 7 months. And the reason for that is because it goes back to the thing of when she spoke about community. But I actually picked up it a lot later. It wasn't with your group with the Brain Trust. It was until then that's when I realized that, wow, this is how much you can do when you're with people who can cover your weaknesses while you may just keep building your strengths and don't have to worry about a lot of the other things, as well as the support. I mean, I've done my first podcast, my first webinar, my first, like today would be a different style of webinar, because I'm not used to doing webinars where it's like a conversation and I have to host. And that's the reason why I asked you if I could be co-host alongside with you, was because I wanted to, again, to go out of the comfort zone. I mean, I've never thought about doing it. I never thought I'd be somebody who'd just, do something without hesitation. And yeah, that was a huge deal. And secondly, it was with the time, when you mentioned that, you spend your time giving value. I think that's what it really came down to, because after I did the offline marketing campaigns for us, well, not really for us, but I told you that, yeah, I'm going to be busy for the next 3 weeks. Talk to me anytime after that. In those 3 weeks, it was quite painful. There was so much to do, to learn, to get on the same level as a lot of people. It was just not possible. And then, when you invited me to the Brain Trust, that's when I realized, even if I think at some point I was a little bit hesitant, because I didn't know how it would work out and how we could do it. By the way, for those of you listening, Rob and I are in a team together where we do lots of, it's kind of like a business team. We do lots of writing, copywriting, ad campaigns, and any business fundamentals together. So that whole process, you get the idea. I think it kind of got to a point where I did get a bit frustrated, not with the group, but with myself, in terms of how little that I can do on my own. So that's when, on the same night when you invited me, that's when I realized, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to give to these people all that I've got, all that I've learned, so that I can help them. And the impact is so much more powerful than anything I've ever imagined. And today, again, Lisa, when she mentioned it, that's when I realized, wow, in the past few weeks, I've done so much more. I've helped so many more people. I've grown in ways that I never thought I would have. I've gotten out of my comfort zone so many times, just because, it begins with the idea of trying to help other people. And that, yeah, that's really the key. For me now, I see it so much clearer. Is that a word? I've gained a lot of clarity. Yes. So, I mean, there's still weaknesses of myself that I know to grow on, but it all begins with how much I can, influence people. And I think that really sets I have like this more of a long-term goal now. I think a bit towards the future on how I can help people, both not of my age and of my age, how I can help the future generation. And when she brought on like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, that's when I realized, like people who've made massive impact, regardless of alongside with people like Michael Jackson, their music, um, anything that any major key player, any major leader has done for this world, even if they pass away or if something happens to them, what they left behind is this whole new world for people, for the next generation to carry on. And that to me was just, it hit me because it's unbelievable. Humanity it's not perfect, but that's what's really beautiful about it. There's always ups and downs. There's always loopholes. There's always mistakes. But the fact that there's so many people who are capable of influencing others, that will just, it will allow them to influence other people. And yeah, it just one step at a time, one moment at a time, we are all trying to make this world a better place. That to me was beautiful. And so, yeah.
So I love everything that you just said, and something that is very much related to all this, but you didn't mention, and I'm not even sure that you realize, is that, as you said, we got back from Cabo, and I called you, or we made, I think, I don't remember why, I think we were just, oh, I know what it was, is that I was first putting together this co-op, and I wanted to make sure that you knew about the webinar that was coming up for it. And you told me about what you were doing with your offline advertising, and you told me some things that, just showed me once again how ambitious and how motivated you are, and I was so impressed. And so, when the idea of the co-op was originally for people to get clicks for cash, and that was it. But then those people would also have mind share, and we would all help each other to learn how to optimize our clicks. But as it became more of a brain trust, and I started thinking about, who are the people outside of the co-op that we should have on the team, you were on top of the list because of that conversation. And it was actually because of that conversation that about 10 of us within the co-op wound up investing almost $10,000, including the $1,000 that you put in. There was about $10,000 that we invested in offline advertising, and that's going to make for a great case study. But nobody else, I mean, there's 2,000 people in this community that you and I are part of, and nobody else was talking about that. Nobody else did it, and you were doing it, and I thought that was incredible. Here you are up in Toronto, Canada, doing offline advertising in San Diego, where I live, and that was what made me think, what am I doing? We got to be doing offline advertising. So, but we do have a lot of complementary strengths and skill sets among this team and this community that we brought together. And as you said, it's just, and as Lisa said, there's so much power in that. The fact that we can complement our weaknesses, that we can go to people and ask those things that we don't know, and a lot of the things that we don't know we shouldn't be doing anyway. We should be paying $2 to $5 an hour to somebody that's happy to do it for that price, and focusing on the things that are actually going to make us money. Or helping more people, because helping more people ultimately is what's going to make us a tighter, more successful community. And so we can talk about it without even talking about the money. I don't ever want, anybody who knows me knows that that's not what drives me, but it's at the same time with the money, you can help a lot more people. So it just kind of all goes together.
Yeah, it does all go together because, you help people, and then there is just, I wouldn't say ways, or I don't like to use the law of attraction, but it's just, you really attract, and you attract a lot of people who, see you and can relate to you and like you. And therefore, and those kind of people are from all sorts of backgrounds. And so you're capable of helping people who need help, and people who love your spirit and who love you as a human being will automatically want to help you. So that's what it really comes down to. But yeah, I actually did realize it when you mentioned, you know, the influence thing on, because actually you kept reminding me of it, so I had to realize it. But you did at a point say, Eileen, when can you talk? I want to say thank you. That's why that was the first time it hit me. I'm like, what for? And to me, I'm just, you know, it's so small because I'm just sharing with somebody about something that I'm doing. It's not like a major revolutionary thing, but to somebody else who has received the information on the other side, it's a whole new different meaning to them. And so, yeah.
I hear you. Anybody else? We can unmute anybody here. It's amazing that there's still 8 of us here. People are dropping out. We probably should, well, we're not keeping anybody here, you know, but this is great. Actually, Lisa just called. I put you on hold for a second and went and told Lisa that we were very grateful for her and that it was so good that there's actually still 10 people on the line. She said, that's what happens. That's what happens when you have a good conversation going. So, it's
Awesome.
an amazing group.
I don't. Line right now?
No, she called on the phone. I'm
Okay.
on the phone. I don't know one of the people here. I mean, I know everybody who's here except for one person, and that is Kim. Is that Kim from Australia? Kim
Yes.
Clayton?
Kim from Brisbane. Yes.
Brisbane.
Kim in Cabo.
Yes. Well, there were actually 2 Kims, 2 men named Kim in Cabo from Australia, I think, right?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure which one is this. Is this the one who is making a lot of money in the business that we were in Cabo about?
Willis? No,
Yeah.
I think
no,
it's
this is not
Clayton.
Kim Willis.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hey,
So
after tonight, Kim Clayton will be making a lot of money.
Yes, that's for sure. Well, hey, Kim Clayton, it's nice to see you here. I'm going to check out your Facebook page and find out who you remember who you are, because I think we did talk in Cabo. And I appreciate you being here. Navjot from India, Fabiana from the Netherlands, Eileen from Toronto, Clinton from Las Vegas, Bruce from, well, I'll get it right the next time, but just south of Canada in Washington State, in some little town, probably not so little. And me in San Diego, and Boyan in Vancouver, British Columbia. We actually had another guy on the line for most of the call named Brian from Vancouver, who I might have to connect you to. And I guess with that, we will stop the recording. Anything else you want to add before we go, Eileen?
Yes. Never let anything stop you from where you want to go. Okay? That's the goal here. No matter your background, you know, how you grew up, where you grew up, and how things have been bad or anything for the matter, but the one thing that, like, just like Lisa said, success, like 90% of it is to just show up, because being there shows everyone else your dedication. And I remember the first time, I mean, I actually, because of a current business I'm involved in now, I actually never thought about getting involved in a business, ever. It was always about, you know, school and then job, and then, well, for me, I studied in the science and engineering field, so I wanted to do research and whatever that comes in the way, so I never thought about business. But this March, it was just, I knew for me that I wasn't satisfied with my life, not just money. It was more of a, no matter how far I can achieve in the fields of anything, including what most of you might not know, I actually have a very strong background in music. I shared that with Lisa, that's why she knows. But no matter how much I've ever achieved or accomplished, it was always this diminishing feeling inside me that was never fulfilling. So I knew that I had to actually do something different. That's why I joined a business in March and attended one of the events. And I still remember, you know, exactly how that day went. I was completely scared. Like like most of you know, I'm 21. I'm not actually not very outgoing. I don't talk too much. This is all, like, the Eileen that you see here and that you hear from tonight is all a very new me that I've grown in the past few months. But it's really scary when you're getting involved with something that you don't know the outcome of, and it's also very, most of what it is just people don't like change, right? So your friends, your family, they're going to be thinking, what are you doing with yourself, and what are you doing right now? And because the majority of people, they don't come from an entrepreneurial background, so they don't have the mindset of knowing that you have to fail and fail and fail and fail, and then it's because of those failures that's why you succeed. Most people need to see the result first, and so a lot of, like myself, I didn't tell my parents about it at all until very recently. But a huge part of that is just, the friends. They always, they kind of make jokes about it, laugh about it. And because I guess I don't have too much of a impulsive emotional behavior, so I don't do anything about it. But they put you down, and it puts you at a state where you just almost don't believe in yourself anymore. You just want to give up. But I guess what really changed was the fact that I knew I didn't want to live the life that I did. And so that's why I began to seek out. And like I said, it was all very scary from here and there, from the beginning till now. It's everything that I do, I freak out. I usually freak out first and then calm down maybe 2 days later and then do something about it. But it's all a very scary process. And what keeps me going is the understanding that now I am capable of doing something I really wanted to do from the beginning of time. I want to matter, not just to people around me, but to people whom I can help with. I want to let them know, hey, you know what? Right now you may be doing something that is very tiring and painful, but pain is progress. And if you keep going, you will get there one day. It's just a matter of time. And so those of us on the line right now, I just want to let you know, this is not something that you need to give up easily. As a matter of fact, if you look at anyone who is successful today, and the reason why they're successful is because of everything that they've done, everything that they've gone through. It is a painful process, but in the end, it will all be worth it. And a friend of mine, Matt Lloyd, he's the same thing. He's also a young entrepreneur, but if he had given up 2 years ago and didn't continue, then he wouldn't be changing thousands, hundreds and thousands of people's lives today. Whether it be changing their lifestyle, helping other people do more for their family, do more for the community, do more for the society. It's really all about that. So imagine if one person can do that, like, why can't you? So wherever you are right now, whether in business or life, just never give up. Okay, that's the one thing that you can never do, because if you give up, you're stopping all the roads from getting you from where you want to be, from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. And so that's what I want to let you guys know. And I can tell you that although I'm not anywhere near where I want to be, because I guess I dream too big, but that was the beginning of this entire process for me. It was just another man who told me, Eileen, dream big. That's all you have to do. And with that dream, you're able to create goals, create your personal goals, and help people. And you will get there one day. But even though I'm not where I want to be, it's already so rewarding just to go through the entire process. And yeah, guys, it will all be worth it. So never give up. And I want to leave you with that.
Well, very inspiring. And what I want to leave you with is, I mean, this is a woman who's 21 years old who's talking like she's lived her whole life, and she's telling us, a lot of us who are way older than her, what we should have known when we were her age, and imagine where we could be if we had done the things that she's doing now. But at the same time, it's not too late, and we have the right opportunity. When you have the right opportunity, when you have the right community and the right support system, you know, it can make all the difference. So we will, those of us working together in the Brain Trust community, will do our best to support any of you who are part of it and who join us, and we look forward to seeing many of you, and please invite others to join us in our next webinar, which is scheduled for Friday night, the 22nd at 7 p.m. Pacific, which is 10 p.m. Eastern, and it's, all kinds of different times. It is 7, anyway, I won't even try to go there. But in the Netherlands, I think it is 7 p.m. plus 8, 7, 12, 3. I think it's 4 a.m. in the Netherlands, so the perfect time for Fabiana to be there. Anyway, I'm going to stop recording now. Thanks, everybody. Once again, go off and have a life, and in Australia, have a great